today we're just gonna really like briefly review the stress, cortisol, and nervous system, specifically in entrepreneurs, because we have a different lifestyle, we have different stress, we have different duties, we have different responsibilities, and all that shit takes a toll into our life, whether you like it or not. It's just kind of how it goes. Okay. Now, I don't know if any of these will sound familiar to you guys, but there's three things that I know that, or at least I used to notice a lot, right? Which was wired but tired. So basically all day I'm feeling exhausted. I'm like tired. I'm not giving the energy that I know I can have. But then I go to sleep at night and I'm fucking tired. Like, or at least like I'm tired, but I don't actually fall asleep. I don't know if any of you boys have ever felt that, or if you currently feel it, right? So it's just that kind of false signaling to yourself. Then we have the anxious edge. So you always have like some sort of like anxiety in the back. In the back, you're like not really enjoying everything. You're focusing on like what's yet to come, on what you have done, what you haven't done, on the problems, on all of this, on all of this stuff. But why am I stuttering so much? And then we have the flat drive. So basically, you're just not as motivated as you used to be. Your competitive edge is no longer there. You just don't have that fire. You just don't have like all of that energy, right? And it's not noticeably not there, and you don't really understand what you can do to fix it. I don't know if any of you boys feel any of these, if not all three.
I definitely felt like in the beginning of this year, the flat drive. You know, it's just going around like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
yeah, bro, definitely. Now, it's not purely just because of cortisol or your nervous system, but that has a big play into all of it. All right. So, boys, just to kind of get you to understand what cortisol actually is. So basically, it's the stress hormone, but everybody gives it a bad rep. So everybody's like, oh, you can't have high cortisol. You can't have high cortisol at all, or else you're cooked, or all of this stuff. The thing is, you need cortisol, right? Cortisol is what's going to get you to wake up. It's what's going to get you in that fight or flight. It was designed for short bursts, okay? So it was designed for a short burst of energy, a short burst of focus, a short burst of like escaping a threat, but then it returns to its baseline. Now, the problem isn't necessarily the cortisol, it's the fact that we have adapted our cortisol to a chronic distinction. So it's no longer just about the acute version of it, it's also about the chronic version of it. Because if it were to function properly, it wouldn't be an issue. However, modern stress, so we are constantly under deadlines, we're constantly under notifications, we're constantly under financial burdens, we have shit to take care of, we have our team to manage, we have our setter that didn't do a good job, we have our closer that didn't do a good job, right? So we have all of these things, and the thing is, our body doesn't distinct business and work-life stress from physical stress. It's all genuinely just coming from the same bank. It's all just stress. But now the issue is not that our body doesn't recognize the difference. It's that the thing is, when we have physical stress, there's a clear beginning and a clear ending sign, right? So we're doing our exercise, we're putting our body under stress. And when we're no longer sending that signal, we're no longer under stress. The thing is, we as entrepreneurs, with all of these things, with all of the daily stresses, with our modern life, with our modern cortisol, we don't have a clear, okay, we're good. We don't have a clear closure signal, right? So that makes our HPA axis, which I've talked about in our last call, but I'm briefly going to go over again on this call, just switched on for weeks, maybe months, instead of just minutes or an hour or something of the sort, right? So the biggest issue and the premise of this talk is the duration rather than the actual hormone. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Awesome. So, lads, moving on. There's the axis. The axis. I talked about the HPA, and you have it here. Okay, but the way that it kind of works is you get chronic stress. Your HPA, which is your hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands axis, is activated, which is the signaling to create more cortisol. And then you have, because of that signaling, cortisol output, and because of the cortisol output, you have less test production. Now, what this means is you have 4 different pathways in which things like these happen. Okay, you have firstly the pregnenolone steal. What this means is pregnenolone is the exact same raw material that your body uses to either create cortisol or either create testosterone. Okay. Now, what happens is, if your cortisol is stealing the pregnenolone alone to create more cortisol, right? I mean, if your body is stealing it to create more cortisol, there's not enough for test production. We have the second pathway, which is the SHBG, right? Now, we talked about this also on the first call and on the last call as well. So you should be very familiarized with the term SHBG, which is your sex hormone binding globulin. What the sex hormone binding globulin is basically a hormone that takes the test. So all of the free tests, so I mean, you can have a lot of total tests, but when your SHBG is high, your body doesn't have as much free test. So it doesn't have the test that should be available for it to do what it needs to do, right? Then we have the LH signaling. The LH signaling is basically the luteinizing hormone. What this means is you have your pituitary gland, which is also from the fucking HPA axis, okay? The pituitary gland sends a signal that's the luteinizing hormone, and what that does is it tells your balls to produce more test. Once again, I've gone over this. Now, when chronic cortisol is there, it's going to blunt the signal, so your balls get less instruction to produce more test, and so it doesn't matter everything else that's going on. You can be eating well, you can be sleeping properly, you can be doing all of that stuff, but if you're getting this signal interrupted, or if you're getting this signal not sent out as much, you are going to produce less and less tests, and therefore you are going to feel one of these three things. Like I mentioned, you're either going to feel wired but tired, you're going to be anxious all the time, or you're going to have no drive because of low libido, low motivation. Your competitive edge is going out because you have no test. How do we tell our balls to produce more test? That's actually a pretty good question. So if you understand the concept that cortisol is going to decrease that signal because of the pituitary gland, right? What happens is simple as reverse engineering, lowering the stress signal, lowering your cortisol, having your pituitary gland work properly by increasing also whether that be your gut health, because as we saw last call, Sam, when your gut is irritated, it also takes a toll on your HPA axis. HPA is hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands, pituitary being the one in the middle. So you know that the signaling from the pituitary can affect the way that your cortisol is being produced, right? So there's the reducing of stress levels, increasing or improving your gut health, eating cleaner, working out to deload stress as well, right? So it's just simply reverse engineering what could affect A, your cortisol, and B, your pituitary gland.
Can I make a quick question? How can we train not reacting to certain things? Because if we are in a high cortisol environment, because we just have to, right? Like work, stuff like that. Like how do we control ourselves more? Like what would you say is a good exercise?
Awesome. So I mean, there's a couple of things. And I'm going to go over all of this as well more towards the end of the call, the methods that you can be doing to lower your cortisol. However, lads, a lot of this, and it's very, very important to put this out there, whether you agree with it, whether you don't. A lot of this cortisol and a lot of this stress is going to come simply from your mindset. What I mean by this is the way you perceive things is the way things are, right? So if for you are constantly worrying about, oh, I need to send this DM. Oh, I need to be home in 5 minutes to hop on this call. Oh, I need to this. I need to hit this KPI. I need to fire this team member, right? If all of these things are not a reason of organization, but a reason for stress, for importance, you are going to raise your cortisol, whether you like it, whether you don't. So one of the biggest things that you can do, and it's not necessarily to do with the science, but it's to do with your mindset, is detach. Because once you detach, there's no longer an importance. If it happens, it happens. That's why low cortisol, you see fucking Max Verstappen just relaxing on the tree, there's no fucks to give, because all of that is going to come from your perception of what's important. Because it's not necessarily bad to give things importance, but it's bad to give excess importance to them, right? Have your priorities straight. Exactly. Be more nonchalant. Simple as that, bro, right? Have your priorities there. Have all this stuff. You know what you have to do. You do what you have to do, but you don't care. You don't attach, right? Now, not caring is different from doing it carelessly. Two very different things, but that's besides the point. We can also go over all of this stuff on a different call, which is like realigning your paradigms, which has a big thing to do with fitness. But for today, I just want to stick to this basic level of cortisol, stress, and nervous system. So Pedro, does this answer your question to some degree?
Still like learning to be more, to put less pressure.
Yeah. Mate, we can actually do another call about this because it's something that I'm really interested in, and I know it can help a lot of people out. It's helped me out a shit ton, so I'm also down to do this on another call. But I'll also give you like practical stuff to go over to lower your cortisol at the end of this call. Moving on, this cycle is one that entrepreneurs are constantly falling under. This is like, if they were to say like cortisol in entrepreneurs, this is the correlation to it. Okay, this is the main correlation that we have to high cortisol, because we as entrepreneurs, we have this pattern that we just can't switch off. A lot of us have a hard time distinguishing what our work and our actual other stuff, our life, our physical health, all of this stuff, it's hard to distinguish. We're always in a work state. We're always in an elevated state of cortisol, always thinking of how can I make this decision? How can I do this, and this, right? And what's going to happen is when you're always on this state, your cortisol isn't dropping the way it should. It's always elevated, right? And so that's going to take away from your deep sleep cycle. And when that takes away from your deep sleep cycle, you simply get less test released at night, which leaves you running on lower energy for the next day, which makes you compensate with more caffeine the next morning. And so when you compensate with more caffeine, your cortisol gets raised even more. And now you're just refeeding the cycle. When you have a bad cycle, everybody knows the exit point is to pattern interrupt, right? Break the pattern today. Simple as that. The way that we're going to break this pattern is multiple responses to lower your stress levels. That can be breath work, that can be winding down, that can be just taking a moment and going on a walk. So deactivating your sympathetic and activating your parasympathetic state, improving your sleep, recognizing that you must rest. Because, bro, I swear it's become a fucking big measuring contest between entrepreneurs about who has the highest stress level. It's been a genuine like dick measuring contest. Like, bro, can I I have more stress than you, bro. Bro, I genuinely used to feel like feeling high stress, having high cortisol was like a badge. I was like, I'm classified as an entrepreneur. I'm like constantly stressed because of my work. When you shouldn't feel this way, because like I said, it's all going to break down into that cycle. It's going to make our sleep worse. It's going to make our test worse. It's going to make our motivation worse. It's going to make our energy worse. It's going to make the way we show up to work and make decisions worse. Our mental clarity, our cognitive function, all of this stuff is going to go down, right? The big flex here is actually having low cortisol. Not just the meme, not just the all like being nonchalant or whatever the fuck, but genuinely having low cortisol, genuinely having detachment to the work and all this stuff so that you can control your nervous system. Let me go to your question, Gonzalo. What are the best practices to switch off and on, off and actually rest while sleeping? Okay, so the first thing you have to understand is that, and I saw this actually on Superman the other day, which is the going to the dark side isn't a switch, it's a journey. So just like you aren't able to rest properly, it's not because yesterday you ate bad that you can't sleep properly. It's an accumulation of habits that have led you to have more stress, to not properly be able to rest, right? So the way to go about this isn't necessarily thinking, okay, work's done, switched off, bye. Right? You can either get really good at that, which is 10 times harder, or you can start by switching and adapting your habits. So what this looks like is eating better, is working out based on capacity, more importantly, rather than working out based on a workout plan that some personal fuck-ass trainer gave you. What I mean by this is a lot of times entrepreneurs have like a personal trainer that doesn't understand their stress life, right? That they're training people that are working 9 to 5, that are eating like breakfast every day, that are, they don't have the same responsibilities, they don't have the same demands, they don't have all that stuff, right? And so the trainer tells you to go 5 times to the gym and do push, pull, split, upper, lower, right? But then you go, and every time you have to progressively overload because your coach is telling you, but you've only slept 3 hours last night. You're fucking tired as shit. You're overstressing your body, right? And what that means is it means that your body's going to prioritize your physical recovery. So the rest of the stuff is going to suffer, right? And for you to still function on the non-properly recovered body, your cortisol is going to be elevated as well. So it's all just a big cycle. Now, the way you break that is specifically with training, is training on capacity rather than training on a plan, right? Some days I want you to genuinely go there and do your best and push, and other days I want you to just kind of push back a bit. Just let yourself recover, let yourself rest. All right, lads. Then we have the belly fat connection. I don't know if you guys knew about this, but cortisol is going to dictate where your fat is also stored, how much, or at least your body composition, right? So, because at the end of the day, if you're in an energetic imbalance, so you're eating less calories than you're consuming, you're still going to lose weight. But weight doesn't necessarily mean body fat. If your cortisol is high and you're on top of that eating like many calories under your maintenance, your body is going to get another stress signal from the lack of food that it's getting, right? So that's why so many people are telling you, just calorie deficit, but you're still holding on to fat, but you're getting weaker. You're now exchanging in that calorie deficit muscle rather than fat. And the thing is, when you have higher cortisol, you have higher visceral fat, you have higher overall fat stored in your belly, because that's where cortisol is going to send the signal to store the fat, right? And what that does is when you get more fat and more cortisol, your sleep's going to get bad, your ghrelin is going to go up, which is your craving hormone. And overall, not only because of the ghrelin, but also because of the fat and because of the cortisol, you're going to get increasing in cravings in sugar and refined carbs. You're going to get, like I said, the specific signals for fat storage on your abdomen, okay? And on top of that, you're going to get the fat, the specifically visceral fat. The more visceral fat you have, the worse it is, because the more estrogen you are going to have. What I mean by this is your visceral fat specifically has an enzyme that's called, it's aromatase, okay? Aromatase simply converts test into estrogen. That's why having excess body fat is estrogenic. It's literally converting test into estrogen. So it's worsening your test to estrogen ratio, which is making you not only lose or make fat loss harder, it's making you more stressed, it's making you less motivated, it's making you more tired. That's exactly why I'm making this call for you guys, so you guys understand that you can't just have a standard diet and a standard exercise routine or exercise advice, because it often falls into the category for someone who's not an entrepreneur. It often falls down for someone who has all of these privileges of not having to stress as much, not having to work as much, not having to worry as much, or at least getting proper sleep, not having to be in front of the computer until 12 p.m. or 1 a.m. Take advice that is specific to entrepreneurs, because no matter how small the difference is, it can lead to the difference between you digging the hole deeper and stressing your body more, or you actually healing yourself, right? Just to give you guys an example, I had a client of mine that he came to me with a desire to lose fat, and he was already under a massive calorie deficit, right, for a while. And he has a bunch of stress in his life, works a lot, doesn't sleep too much. So we started to heal his nervous system, and now he is now ready to lose that fat properly, and he has been progressing. But it took 3 months to heal his nervous system, right? To get him properly on track, to readapt to that lifestyle. There can be a lot of damage done if you follow the improper advice, because that's what he was doing previously. What spikes cortisol versus what lowers it? Pedro here to answer, or start answering your questions at least, right? To lower all of that stuff. The first thing is checking your phone first thing in the morning. Bro, you're instantly spiking your dopamine, or at least the easy dopamine. You're instantly spiking your cortisol. You're setting yourself up for a bad day, okay? Secondly is stacking caffeine on an already elevated curve. What I mean by already elevated curve is you already have somewhat high cortisol, and you're stacking caffeine. It's gonna make your cortisol raise even more and more, right? Thirdly is no hard stop to the work day. I'm not saying don't work. I'm not saying don't give a fuck about your work. I'm saying take 30, 45 minutes of your day to just step outside, touch some grass, get some sun, all of that stuff. Tell me, Pedro.
Bro, so what's the alternative for the caffeine? 'Cause sometimes, bro, I'll be feeling like that, and then I'm like, okay, but I need a little bit of energy just to push through or something like that. And
Yeah.
Caffeine, bro.
Of
So
course,
what's
bro.
the alternative?
Bro, one thing I say that works for me all the time, first is regulating the amount of caffeine, because you're going to start understanding that a lot of times your body just has to go through that adaptation curve, and then it's going to work properly, right? That's what happens a lot of times. However, if you want an alternative for the caffeine, I'm not saying don't have caffeine, right? But limit your use of caffeine. So in the morning, I wait until 90 minutes after I'm woken up to have the caffeine. Exactly. 11 coffees a day. How many coffees today, Sam? Yeah, Sam be fucking up coffees. But
bro, no, that's cap, bro.
Okay.
Usually in the morning, I take a 200 milligrams of caffeine pill, and then during the day, I take like one more and sometimes one more coffee. So this is like 6-7 coffees a day.
Nah, bro. Firstly, the fact that you're having 200 milligrams when you wake up of caffeine ingested, like straight in a pill, is crazy to me, because you're not even like sipping it like a coffee and getting a somewhat slower release.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The coffee is just like 80 milligrams of caffeine. It's not 200, bro. Right? So the first things first is I would try to understand, bro, 77% made of caffeine. Bro, I would firstly understand, why do you feel that lack of energy, right? Like, understand what is happening in your routine that isn't allowing you to properly feel that energy on a day-to-day basis. Does that make sense? So I want you to understand, is it my sleep? Is it my training? Is it my food, right? Is it like, am I just not having a moment to myself? Or do I just gradually need to decrease? So first things first is gradually decrease. Don't go cold turkey, because that's what's going to make your brain crave it even more, right? Slowly trick your brain into not even wanting the caffeine, okay?
I'll slice one in half and take it.
Bro. Slice the pill in half, bro. Slice if you have to, okay? But don't take it first thing in the morning. Wait until like 90 minutes after you're woken up at least to do so. So the replacement for that, like you asked me, would be cold exposure, would be exercise.
Like a intensive gym session, like cold shower.
Yeah.
That you get, like, I get home super tired, cold shower, like I'm reborn.
I wouldn't recommend it though. I'll tell you why. Because you're still sending, even though it's not an ice bath, you're still blunting all the signal that you've been creating in the gym session, right? So obviously it's not going to be like significant, but
it's not like super cold. It's like not hot.
No. Okay, yeah. If you're having just below room temperature water, then that's very
refreshing.
chill.
Not like.
Or if anything, I would say get some ice on your face. You can do a cold plunge, but just dunk your face. Because you're still going to wake up, but you're not going to blunt the signals in your muscle. Does that make sense? So what else? Yeah, cold showers, hydrate properly. Like, the difference hydration makes is insane. Okay, thirdly, the second you wake up, bro, go outside, look at the sun, get your body moving, do some push-ups, just get a walk, either sun your balls or sun your asshole, bro. Up to you, man. Either one is going to help you, all right? Just wake up. Just have a proper wake-up routine in which you're not depending on caffeine. Right? So say if caffeine didn't exist, this is the best question to ask yourself. If caffeine didn't exist, what would I do everything in my power to get up and be as energized as if I were on caffeine, but with no caffeine? And then you're going to put yourself in a problem-solving state, and you're going to start figuring out shit that works out for you. Okay? So just in the morning until the first 90 to 120 minutes, restrict your caffeine, okay? Something that spikes your cortisol, and so that's why I don't recommend intermittent fasting to everyone, is skipping your meals. Okay, skipping meals is really good. Don't get me wrong. Fasting, in terms of fasting, is awesome, but it depends on the subject. It depends on the person that is going under that intermittent fasting, because some people's systems are very unregulated and have already high cortisol, and so you not giving your body the food can be another signal or another stress signaler, right? So we don't want that. Another thing that I skipped just over here is constant notifications, bro. Having the constant ding, 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 looking at your phone, it doesn't allow your brain to just focus on one task. You're always switching attention, and you're not only reducing your attention span, you're also literally increasing your cortisol because you're now like, oh, you're getting excited. You're like, oh, what's that? Oh, what did she text me? Oh, what, bro? Like, we know you don't got hoes texting you, bro. Why are you checking your notifications? We know you don't got hoes texting you, bro. And then we have the inconsistent sleep times, which is you always like, oh, one day you sleep at like midnight, one day you sleep at, bro, using the calculator, but Jim said, bro, 100%, bro. You definitely walk past a group of girls and you check the weather app, bro. When talking about inconsistent sleep times, bro, like you sleeping one day at 10 p.m. and, oh yeah, tonight I'm going to sleep really well. I'm going to sleep at 10 p.m. And then you wake up, or because you're used to sleeping for hella long, then you wake up at 10 a.m. Now you're just going to bumble clock 12 hours of sleep. First of all, wasted 12 hours of your day, right? 4 hours that could be used for like working, for you working out, for you focusing on yourself, on your meals and all that stuff. You've wasted 4 extra hours sleeping. Low leverage as fuck. So the best way to do it is progressively work towards the schedule that you want. So if you're normally now sleeping at midnight and you want to sleep at 10 p.m., progressively sleep later. Wake up at the time that you know makes sense. Even if you have to cut sleep for 1 or 2 days, say you like sleep at midnight and you wake up at 6 a.m. You've only slept 6 hours at night. But okay, because now you're going to be tired for you to sleep a bit earlier that day. So now you sleep at 11:30, right? And then you wake up still at 6 a.m. Now you've had 6 hours 30. And then the next day you go to sleep at 11. And now you've gotten 7 hours of sleep because you still woke up at 6. So you reconstruct or reverse engineer your sleep schedule. Does that make sense? Now, lowering it naturally, the best ways to do this, and I'm not a fucking breathwork coach, I'm not a Bali breathwork coach, but in all seriousness, breathwork does help you regulate. Why? Because a lot of times it's going to help you switch from the sympathetic, which is you being high alert, to parasympathetic, which is you just cruising, you're just chilling state, right? So your nervous system is actively getting switched when you're breathing. That's why a lot of times, bro, teachers are telling you, take a deep breath. Before a conversation, take a deep breath. It's programmed into us. Take a deep breath. Get your mind clear. Oxygenate yourself. And then say something. And then do something. On top of that, cold exposure in the morning. In the evening, we don't want cold exposure. Why? Because your core temperature is going to drop, but it's going to elevate itself now because you're now just very, very cold. Unless you sleep right after a cold plunge, right? And even then, the best way to go about it would be to do a sauna. You can do sauna, ice bath, sauna, ice bath, sauna, ice bath. But after the sauna, finish on a sauna because now your core temperature is going to drop and it's going to prone you for a deeper sleep. All right. So cold exposure in the mornings. And then we have strength training, bro. Strength training just gets you going. Every time you strength train, you cannot tell me that every time you strength train, no matter how tired you feel, you don't feel a bit more energized than when you walked into the gym that day. And now the last thing is simple as the opposite of what spikes it necessarily. It's just deep and consistent sleep. You can use supplements for that as well. You can use glycine, you can use magnesium glycinate, you can use L-theanine, you can get nasal strips, you can get mouth patches, you can get set your room to the coldest exposure, right? Make it pitch dark, reduce all EMF, so unplug your Wi-Fi when you're sleeping, put your phone in airplane mode, everything you can do to reduce, do it, right? Don't stress, like bro, the EMFs, yes, it's shit, but if you have a fucking, you don't have to go and actively turn off the Wi-Fi. That's like in a very optimal, ideal state. That's a really, really, really good point that I was going to
my Wi-Fi is not on. Fuck, I can't sleep. I can't get my
exactly.
Bro, shut the fuck up.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. The biggest thing that's going to spike your cortisol in these scenarios is you worrying about these things. That's what's going to spike. It's going to make your fucking lifestyle and your cortisol worse than it would be if you weren't worrying about these things, but just letting them happen to you naturally. At the end of the day, you can't control everything. And that's part of the law of detachment, right? If you're so attached to the fact that I have to turn off the Wi-Fi, I have to eat this, I have to sleep at this temperature, at this degree, with my penis facing north, so that I don't, so that I don't feel bad. Like, if you're trying to control every single detail, you're going to overload your nervous system by worrying about everything that's happening bad to you, because now you're putting yourself in a victim mindset as well. Like, oh no, because this is going to happen to me because I'm going to get estrogenic. Bro, it's estrogenic as fuck to worry about everything as well. Morning lights and cortisol awakening response. Okay. This is something that a lot of people skip. A lot of people don't recognize. Like, you wake up, you just go straight to your phone, or you go straight to working without understanding that you need to have a moment for you to wake up. So morning sunlight within 30 minutes of waking up. Okay, consistent wake up time. So every day, wake up consistently. It doesn't have to be at precisely the dot, but overall, you're setting your circadian rhythm to wake up at that time. And so your body is now naturally already going to be regulated at around that time to wake up, and you're just going to have less and less and less and less and less effort to properly wake up because your body's going to be so in tune with that routine. And the caffeine, delay it from 60 to 90 to 120 minutes. And then we have midday bright light. So midday, take a moment out of your work, just go out. Like, after this call, I'm genuinely just gonna go outside and I'm just gonna sun myself a bit. I'm gonna catch some sun. Yeah, son, go ahead, walk over to the window. I'm just gonna go outside and catch some sun. All right. And lastly, after the sunset is down, first, one of the things that I'm also gonna talk about, which is you just accompanying the sunset, decalcifying your pineal gland, getting you properly into that circadian rhythm state. After sun goes down, you want to put on either red light glasses or just turn off blue light in your house, right? Just get you to not look at any artificial lights. It's fucking crazy to me how the world says that you get cancer if you go to the sun, when literally every living creature on this earth works based around the sun. You see your dog or your cats always migrating to where the sun is. Fuck ass plants can't grow without the sun. Everything revolves around the sun. Right? But somehow we're the exception that we get cancer. Moving on to the breath work, the nerve that says is switching you from fight or flight to rest and repair. So from sympathetic to parasympathetic state. Okay. And you can flip it on purpose just with your breath. All right. So you can do nasal breathing, breathing. You can do this can be in the morning or at night. It's really good for you to get your rest up at night. Okay. Cold exposure in the morning, right? While doing breath work. One of my reels is going to be talking about this. 4, 7, 8 breathing. You're just basically inhaling for 4, holding for 7, and exhaling for 8. And you do that for a couple of minutes. You do that like 2, 3, 4, 5 times, okay, throughout the day, and it's going to work properly, okay? It's going to get you dialed in. You can even try this after. And then we have humming or chanting. I mean, bro, like, up to you. You can just breathe, but you can also hum. I don't know if you guys know, but the vibrations caused from humming, whether that's from your throat, whether that's from your bees, has a healing response. Now, it's not vaguely studied. It's not like it is vaguely studied. It's not like massively studied. It's not massively diverged, but that's because shit like this doesn't sell. Shit like this doesn't sell. That's why it's not talked about and studied nearly as much, but it's possibly the most effective things. And then basically just have walks and breathe on your walks. Combine the two. Go on a walk and just be present. Inhale, exhale, just be in that moment. But this is just the difference between ancestral stress and modern stress. Simply to come to the point that we have damn near the same response and stress signals as our ancestors. However, we have a much more stimulating environment than they did. Our bodies haven't necessarily adapted to that, but we still have the same system that was working for our ancestors. Like, they only had to like survive shit. They didn't have notifications, pressure, family. They didn't necessarily have that growing up. Like, you would just fuck around and find out. Now we don't. Now we have warnings for everything, which makes us subconsciously already worry about everything, like Sam said as well. We're all primed to have constant stress, but our nervous system isn't adapted to that stress. So just to make that point, okay. Now just kind of go over the point of cortisol and test again. So basically, where cortisol resets, test is released. Like I said, if you're resetting or you are properly priming yourself to sleep well, your cortisol is going to go down. What this means is less caffeine in the afternoon, have your last meal 3 to 4 hours before you go to sleep, no screens 1 hour before bed, cool, dark room, magnesium glycinate, L-theanine. You can maybe even have a sauna 1 hour before going to sleep. Okay, there's so many things you can do, and I can even send over a morning or a wind up and a wind down routine that would be good. Just don't want to take too much of our time because we've already been here for almost an hour. Daily stress protocols, lads. So what this can be in the morning, we've been through this, but overall, morning sunlight, cold exposure, breath work, midday walks, and evening wind down. This is like compressed for the whole day. Everything that I've told you so far, whether that's the morning routine, the caffeine, the midday breaks, the breathing, the winding down, the sauna, all that stuff, piece it all together, and you've just created a very effective low stress day. Now, supplements. Why a lot of people say that like you get fucking feelingless, you get like very emotionally distant when you take ashwagandha is specifically because of this. It lowers your cortisol. These are always big words and hard to pronounce, but just simply helping you regulate a lot of your stress and your cognitive functions, especially in high stress periods. When you have magnesium glycinate, L-theanine, both of these are very important or very good for your sleep. So it helps you lower cortisol by supporting a better sleep. Okay. And then the only one that I would also like say is very important to mention is vitamin C. Okay, vitamin C is really good because of your adrenal glands. On top of that, also for decalcification of your pineal gland, but that's like very small effect. For entrepreneurs, because a lot of people don't need the same restoration that we do. Now, the best ways to go about this is watching the sunset, like I said, for a night routine. Accompany it, watch it go down, watch it go dark. Be grounding. Go to the beach or go to the woods when you're doing this. Okay, breathing at night, switching from sympathetic to parasympathetic state. Okay, cold exposure in the morning, not at night. You can leave your room cold for your body temperature to drop, but you yourself are not to normally take a cold shower or a ice bath. Okay, then we have pineal gland and fluoride. Okay, simply avoiding fluoride ideally from your toothpaste, fluoride from the water, so not drinking tap water. Okay, a lot of these things because of the melatonin response that it has to it. Melatonin is going to help you sleep better. Okay, one second, Sam. I'm gonna just finish this and then we can go to your question. Then EMFs at night. Okay, like I said, your phone, your Wi-Fi. Structured water, so basically just having your water cleaned up. So either reverse osmosis, ionized, filtered, mineralized. It's more of my stuff. And if you want to learn more about it, you can text me. I can like give you some more insight on that. But overall, these are the main points that I would make. Tell me, Sam.
Yeah, for brushing our teeth, like I've been using coconut oil. I'm not sure what your thoughts on that, just to avoid the fluoride from the toothpaste.
Bro, I mean, you can have coconut water. You can also just make
coconut oil.
Yeah. Sorry, oil. I think it's good because it's going to help you at least with the layers in your teeth, but it's also going to help you whitening your teeth. But another thing that's also really good is baking soda. So bicarbonate solute. Okay, using baking soda is also going to be like very, very good, and you can even like smash like some herb leaves with it, and then it gives you like that minty taste in a sense. So not necessarily just restricting yourself to shitty tasting toothpaste. I have one that I bought with no fluoride that's pretty good. It's from like some tea leaf, okay? So it's also really, really good. But overall, you can do coconut oil. That's also very good. It's healthy for your teeth. I would say if anyone doesn't do it, to do it at least 2 times a week, okay? Leaving it in for 2 to 5 minutes. Yeah, that's it. That's the presentation for today. See you, boys.
Bye-bye.